clickbaited a Stepheny Meyers book when I talked about Project Hail Mary, so I figured I'd reread it and make a video on it. So let's talk about Stepheny Meyers, the host. Hey! I interrupt this video to tell you about my book, Phantoms of the Inferno, a high fantasy story with elemental magic systems, evil kings, espionage, and mass extinction events galore. If that sounds interesting, you should read Phantoms of the Inferno on ScribbleHub and Wattpad. I put up a new chapter every Sunday and have the links down in the descriptions. Now, back to the video. I'm going to do this video a little different than I do normal review videos because, as I said in Project Hail Mary, I was a preteen girl during the Twilight craze. I have feelings about Stepheny Meyers, and those need their own section, which I will start with. You may have noticed that I am not reviewing Twilight, and that's not because I didn't want to read 5 books. Alright, it is because I didn't want to read 5 books, but I didn't want to read 5 books when I was 11 either. And looking back, the fact that I didn't get into Twilight is a strike when it comes to realizing I'm asexual, because I should have gotten into it. I liked The Host. I liked similar books. My friends got into Twilight, and admittedly, when the first movie came out, I was in my not like other girls phase, but I was over it by the time the next movie came out. But it just didn't happen. This just didn't burrow under my skin like it did for my friends, and looking back, that makes sense. When Twilight came out, a switch was being turned on in my friends that just doesn't exist for me. So does that allow me to look at Stepheny Meyers objectively and decide if she's a good or bad author? No. But I do have feelings on her as one author to another.
I'm a writer.
So as far as writing, I don't think it's bad. It's not great, but it's also far from the worst writing I've ever come across. Granted, I'm also including fan fiction in that statement. Not all fan fiction is bad, some is exceptionally good, but when it's bad, it's bad. But yeah, average writing. But the thing about being an author is that it's not just the writing, it's the prose and characters and plot and foreshadowing and the whole of it all that comes together that is greater than the sum of its parts. And I think Stepheny Meyers is a good author. Authors want to make work that's memorable, relatable, that invokes emotions, thoughts, and discussions. And for better or worse, Stepheny Meyers' works does that. She created a cultural movement. She rewired the brains of tens of thousands of teenage girls. She's changed the romantasy genre because every author nowadays writes with her in mind, wanting to be like her and accomplish what she did, or writing in fear of being compared to her. And The Host, the female characters are weak, the story is derivative, and this book is like an atom filled with empty space. It is scene after scene where nothing happens, and I loved it when I was 17. But the thing is, I read it, loved it, and then put it on a shelf and forgot about it for 10 years. And looking back, I'm glad I did, because it's only been in the last 3 years where I've been able to embrace my asexuality, and before that, I was not nice to myself when it came to romance. And I didn't need this book and the influences it had that would have both needled my asexuality and encouraged me to continue unhealthy relationships back then. And now, looking at the book as a grown woman, boy, do I have a lot of feelings, not love feelings, on the book. Let's move on to plot. The Host follows Wanderer, an alien who is part of an invading species who has taken over the Earth by body snatching. Basically, they're little worms that get... Attack on Titan rip off Stepheny Meyers? That's basically it, though. Little worms that go in through the nape of the neck, and they take away people's minds. Alright, people don't turn into giant, bloodthirsty monsters in The Host, but still, that's a weird similarity. Anyway, Wanderer and her people, the Souls, have invaded Earth and taken over the human race, mostly. There are still pods of humans hiding out, and one of those holdouts was Melanie, who was captured in Chicago after she jumped down an elevator shaft, and now her body is Wanderer's host's body. But right away things are off, because Wanderer can't access all of Melanie's memories, and she hears Melanie in her head, but she chalks this up to just acclimating to a new body and a new planet and goes on with her life.
Life goes on!
Wanderer is given a new apartment, a comforter to help her acclimate, which is like a therapist, and a job as a teacher at a university since she's a very unique soul, having lived on 9 of the other planets the souls have colonized. And Wanderer tries to settle into her new life, but Melanie is still giving her issues, talking to her and blocking off parts of her mind to her. This is scary for Wanderer and irritating for her seeker, who's kind of like a cop, who's tasked with tracking down what humans are left and is hoping to use Melanie's memories to do that. And as time progresses, Melanie does slip up. First, she slips up by letting Wanderer see her love interest, Jared. And I will say, right away, this relationship gave me the ick, because it stated pretty early on that Melanie was 17 when she met Jared, who was 26. Now in the story, Melanie's 21, so Jared's 30 or 31. Either way, not good. And I'm saying this as a 27-year-old. The youngest I will date is 24, maybe 23 if they're really cool. But I just don't even know what I would talk to anyone younger than that about. You do so much growth in your very late teens and early 20s, and it's so easy for an older person to come and screw that up. Plus, it's annoying because it's illegal. Why are they always 17? Dirty Dancing did this too. 18 isn't great, but at least a 20-something dating an 18-year-old isn't a criminal.
You're a dirty old man.
Anyway, Melanie keeps slipping up. She lets Wanderer see her little brother Jamie and lets Wanderer discover that Melanie was in Chicago looking for her cousin Sharon and any other humans who might have been with her. But by the time Melanie slips up, these leads have gone cold and aren't much help except for upsetting Wanderer, who doesn't appreciate Melanie's emotions being inflicted on her. And on top of this internal battle, Wanderer is fighting an external one too. Not literally. The souls are pacifists who believe humans are horrible brutes. But the Seeker keeps antagonizing Wanderer, wanting more information and needling her when she doesn't have it. Plus, Wanderer's comforter explains that humans are trickier than they thought. A lot of souls can't squash down the human consciousness and are often driven out of their hosts and re-implanted into more malleable minds of children. And this is something that really bugged me, because we are told that unsuitable host bodies, like the ones that don't function right or have hosts that won't be squashed, are humanely disposed of. And it's not explicitly stated, but it's heavily implied that this means disabled people who have disabilities the souls couldn't cure were all euthanized. The souls are seen as this beacon of peace and love and harmony, but they practice eugenics. Really? Guys, if you're writing a post-apocalyptic story, a good one will have room for disabled people in it. The same way that societies, even before civilization, made room for disabled people.
You're different, and I don't like you!
Anyway, all of this leads to Wanderer deciding to visit her old healer, who puts her in Melanie's body, to either change hosts or try to get help dealing with Melanie. And this ends up causing a lot more issues because as she drives, Melanie bombards her with memories of her life with Jared and Jamie, until Wanderer throws up her white flag and admits that she loves them and doesn't want to give Melanie to anyone else to try and get memories on how to find them. And as luck would have it, they're driving by the desert that Melanie's crack job uncle used to live in. And when he realized the aliens were there before anyone else, because the conspiracy theorists were right in this world, he gave Melanie some vague instructions on how to find him. And now that they're in the desert, they realize that the instructions were to follow the mountains in the desert. So Wanderer and Melanie stop to gather supplies and head off into the desert. These are the chapters where the writing being in past tense really threw me, because Wanderer and Melanie start having real conversations, and there were a few times when Wanderer wasn't thinking to Melanie, but observing things or thinking in the past tense, and then Melanie would chime in the present tense. I feel like this book overall would have been better if it were written in present tense. It wouldn't have made those moments as jarring, and it would have made it more suspenseful, helping show off that Wanderer can't know what happens next because it hasn't happened yet.
Wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey.
But on to the story. Wanderer and Melanie almost die. The two of them wander around the desert for 3 days, find a cache of water at Uncle Jeb's old house, which they drink and then sweat out and then stumble to a tree to die. But just when all hope is lost, they're found by Uncle Jeb. He gives them water and then leaves them for a few hours until he can come back with reinforcements, who take Wanderer and Melanie to the underground cave system that's become his and the other humans' hideout. And even though he says initially that Jared and Jamie aren't there, we find out pretty fast that that was a lie, and they're there with Sharon and her mother Maggie, and they're all fine. Well, they were fine. Now Jared has the dilemma of deciding what to do about Wanderer. Wanderer knows she can't tell Jared or anyone else that Melanie's still alive inside her, because they wouldn't believe it. So everyone thinks they just need to kill this alien and make sure she didn't bring any Seekers with her. But Jared can't bring himself to give the okay to kill Melanie's body, so instead Wanderer packs away in a sort of prison hole. But this turns out to still be dangerous to Wanda and Melanie, because the night a couple of humans, Ian and Kyle, come to try and kill Wanda, who can't bring herself to fight back when Ian tries to strangle her to death. Luckily, Jared stops them, but it shows off just how dangerous the caves are for Wanda, and the fact that her days are numbered.
Your days are numbered!
And this is something that really annoyed me. We went from Melanie fighting back with everything she had, literally throwing herself down an elevator shaft, to becoming stupid and jealous when Jared's around, and Wanda, who was so determined to overcome Melanie and didn't want to seem weak by changing hosts, just accepting that it was only a matter of time before she died. Anyway, Jeb decides Jared doesn't need to stay in the deepest, darkest bowels of the caves to guard Wanda forever, so he comes to take over and takes Wanda on a bathroom break, showing her around the caves somewhat and showing her that there's a lot of humans and they're fairly self-sufficient, but not totally self-sufficient. Every so often they need to go on raids for supplies, and the time comes when Jared and a crew of raiders has to leave, which leaves Wanda in the care of Jeb. And he doesn't waste any time in showing her around and slowly integrating her into their little society. She's given a bedroom, which after a lot of back and forth is decided she'll share with Jamie, and given chores like helping with the farming and becoming a teacher again, telling the humans about the other worlds.
Let's take a rocket ship.
And this is another thing that irritated me. By my notes, there are 14 planets the Souls have colonized, and we find out about 10 of the other alien species, and we didn't even find out much about them. I understand that going on for chapter after chapter explaining each alien's different biology and societies wouldn't make it good romantasy, but this book is supposed to be science fiction. Tell me more about the aliens. We know some of them survive in water, but are they all water-based life forms? Do any of them live on gas planets? How far from their suns are each of them? How many atmospheres of pressure do they live in? And what are their atmospheres made of? How long can a soul survive outside a host on each planet? What do the aliens look like? How do they colonize every part of their planets like humans have? Do they have pets? 14 planets, and none of these questions are even pondered. In these chapters, we get a little bit more information on the aliens, but most of what we get is back and forth interpersonal stuff. The raid party comes back, the raiders are mad that everyone's used to Wanda, who goes by Wanda now. Ian's developed a crush on Wanda, and he and Jared and Jamie all discover that Melanie's alive inside Wanda. And then after a few chapters of all that, Walter gets sick and starts dying of cancer. I'm saying that cheerily, but that part actually did hit me hard. My grandfather died earlier this year, and the description of Walter's condition when he was on his deathbed was accurate.
I want to just lie down and die.
Anyway, Wanda becomes the person who comforts Walter. She lays next to him for several days and just holds his hand and lets him believe she's his long-lost, soul-infested wife. And that's stressful enough until one night when Wanda leaves to use the bathroom, and Kyle decides to take advantage of Wanda being alone. He follows her into the bathroom, hot springs cave, and tries to throw her into the scalding river that leads underground. And with the help of Melanie, Wanda doesn't exactly fight him off. The floor caves in, and Kyle gets knocked out when he almost falls into it, but Wanda manages to hold on long enough not to get thrown into the river or let Kyle fall. And then they head back to Walter, where we get more alien lore. We find out that her species works similar to bees or ants, with sexless drones and one procreating queen, and she is a queen capable of producing asexually. She can't while she's in a host and would need hosts for her children, but it was an interesting detail.
More babies. I have so many babies.
Then more plot happens. Jared went out and scavenged some morphine, and they give a lethal dose to end Walter's suffering, and then give Wanda some since she just got the snot beaten out of her. Then she woozily attends Walter's funeral, and the next time she's really awake is on the day of Kyle's tribunal, since the rules say he wasn't allowed to attack Wanda. And something that annoyed me about the tribunal is that they kept talking about whether or not they were going to banish or kill Kyle for trying to kill an alien, and not the fact that he tried to kill a person. Most people, at least I believe, aren't capable of seriously hurting or attempting to kill each other, especially with their bare hands. And alien or not, Wanda's in a human body. Kyle's subconscious should have been hung up on that. It should have been physiologically harder for him to try and kill Wanda and Melanie. No one thought of that. No one got uncomfortable that this person he doesn't like is around and he can bring himself to seriously hurt her, that he may pose a risk to humans. But if they'd explored that, it would have taken away from the love square rectangle. Wanda physiologically loves Jared, Jared loves Melanie, Melanie loves Jared and hates that Wanda loves him, Ian loves Wanda, and Wanda is developing feelings for Ian. And that's what the focus is on, the love, which plays into Kyle's redemption later, and there is a redemption because Wanda won't testify against him, because at this point she's passively suicidal, and he can stay. This video is getting long, so I'm going to try and rush this. Jared and Jamie go out on a raid. Jamie cuts his leg, and people are worried about that. But before Wanda can worry about that, she discovers that on the raid, they pick up souls for Doc to try and cut out of humans, which doesn't work. It's described as the brain becoming cottage cheese, and I love that description. Wanda freaks out over the mangled corpses of other souls, and goes into a hole to mourn for 3 days, and Ian stays with her for those 3 days. Then after she's done mourning, she's told Jamie's cut got infected, and he's in trouble, and right when she finds this out, she realizes she finally squashed Melanie when she was mourning, so there's a lot of kissing to get her back. Then they go back to Jamie. There aren't any antibiotics left, so they can just wait and see, and they do for a few days, and he gets worse. So Wanda suggests she go out and get him soul medicine, and at first no one likes her idea, but then that night Jared comes and helps Wanda get out of the caves and head to a city so she can see a doctor. He smashes her in the face with a rock. This is not the first time he's hit her. Don't be in relationships with people who hit or strangle you kids. She cuts her arm open, and then she goes to the doctor, and they fix her right up, and she steals a ton of medicine. And it works! A lot of humans are upset that Wanda left, but she saves Jamie, and everyone's happy. Then they decide Wanda should go out on other raids, since she can do it at far less risk. So she, Ian, Kyle, and Jared all go on what's really a shopping trip, and it goes smoothly. Then they see some souls with their human baby that give them hope for the human race. Then on their way home, they're stopped by a seeker. Wanda saves the day again, but she's told to beware because there are disappearances. And this is explained when they get home and find that Wanda's seeker is in the caves and killed someone. And Wanda has a dilemma because they could just kill the Seeker, but she doesn't want to kill out of hate or fear. It goes against everything she stands for as a soul. So she decides to unveil her big secret, which is that she knows how to safely remove souls from humans. But she knows giving them this knowledge means she can't stay. So she starts preparing to die because she doesn't want to go to another planet. She wants to die on Earth.
I want to just lie down and die.
Then they go on some errands to get some cryo tanks for the Seeker, remove her, send her off to another planet, and then discover from her host, Lacey, that she's been fighting the Seeker this whole time, which made the Seeker obsessed with Wanda and Melanie. And shortly after this, Kyle disappears, and then they head out to get more souls to remove from their host. They get 2, but the man's soul kills his host body, but they remove the soul from the dead body and the soul from the woman's body, and after a while, the woman wakes up. She doesn't know a lot about her old life, but she's alert at least. Then Kyle comes back with his old partner Jody, who has the soul Sunny inside her. And this is when Kyle gets redeemed, because he's really nice and gentle with Sunny, and she loves him because Jody loved Kyle. And when Wanda's talking to Sunny about how she can't stay in Jody, everyone finds out that Wanda intends to be removed from Melanie. Only Doc knows she wants to die, but everyone gets upset. There's a lot of back and forth and kissing, another tribunal that ends with them saying they'll sleep on it. Then that night, instead of sleeping, Wanda goes and has Doc remove her from Melanie. And I will say, these 2 pages messed me up the first time I read this book. But it's not the end of the story, because Jared stopped Doc from letting Wanda die, and then he and Melanie and Jamie go and kidnap another soul whose body doesn't wake up after the soul's removed. And they know the host won't come back because Jody's gone, and they had to put Sunny back in her. So they put Wanda in a new body. She's one of many tiny women that have appeared in this section of the book. She's also barely 17, and Ian's presumably about 30, so ick.
You're a dirty old man.
Anyway, life goes on. Ian and Wanda become official, and then a while later they go on a raid where they come across another human colony who found them, actually, and their alien friend Burns. And that's the end of the book. Now, on to the writing. I'm actually going to touch on 3 things in this section. The first is showing versus telling. Show don't tell is something a lot of authors, myself included, struggle with. Telling is basically, he stared at me enraged, while showing is, he stared at me, his face red, his vein throbbing, teeth mashing together. Telling is easier, and every once in a while it is the better option, but showing is much better writing that helps your readers invest in the characters more. And Stepheny Meyers does a lot of showing and telling. Basically, he stared at me, his face red with rage. And it made her writing feel clunky. It made the characters feel distant. If you're struggling with showing versus telling, read some of the book with showing versus telling in mind, and note when Stepheny Meyers tries to have it both ways.
Can't just have your characters announce how they feel?
I also want to touch on the character of Wanda. It feels like in a lot of ways she died in the desert. That's basically when she became passively suicidal, and that is a horrible thing to do to a character. Do not give them the survival instincts of a lemming. You want characters with big personalities who are proactive and strong, and not like strong female characters, but strong enough to put up with and push back on whatever you throw at them. It sort of feels like what Stepheny Meyers tried and failed to make was a Chihiro character from Spirited Away. Chihiro has a big personality. In the beginning, she's a very whiny and spoiled, but those negative traits help show off how she grows at the end of the story, and she's also kind and loyal and brave. And if you just had the good and not the bad, you'd have a much flatter character. And in a lot of ways, the soul's pure altruism and holier-than-thou mentality makes them feel flat. And Chihiro is also a character who is very much driven by the plot, which is fine. It doesn't feel like Chihiro decides to go on her mission to save her parents, because saying she chose to do it implies that she had other choices, and it truly doesn't feel like she does. And that's beautiful and compelling, and having her be pulled along by the larger mission she has to accomplish makes the moments where she does stop to act on her own behalf, to be kind and gentle and a good friend, that much stronger. And having Wanda be a character who doesn't feel like she has this greater mission, who maybe saw that there was something she had to do, or death, and chose death, was so frustrating and unhealthy to read.
That's not healthy.
And speaking of unhealthy, the relationships. First of all, the age gap. I know it's the end of the world and all that, but both girls were 17 and the men were near 30, and this is a common trope that we should be leaning away from. Media influences real life. At the very least, this trope could give young, impressionable children the idea that maybe it is okay and normal for older people to pursue them because they trust their favorite authors or movies or TV shows. And none of this is to say your romantic interests have to be the same age. They don't even have to be anywhere near the same age. Patrick Stewart is 38 years older than his wife, Sunny Ozell. The thing is, she was in her mid-30s when they got married. She was not a young, naive person trying to discover who she was and how to take care of herself. She was a grown woman who already had those skills, and today is an accomplished singer and songwriter who could, and presumably does, take care of herself without relying on her husband. If you want an age gap romance, that's how you do it. And I also wouldn't take any other romantic advice from this book, because honestly, it felt less like how to write romance than an abusive relationship. Everyone hits Wanda in the book. Ian and Jared both leave marks on her. Melanie gets her into the desert by explicitly emotionally manipulating her. She's incredibly isolated in the caves, her behavior is heavily controlled, and there's a lot of hot and cold. Melanie wants Wanda to love Jared enough to protect him, and then gets jealous. And jealousy can be a sign of abuse. And no one takes accountability for their negative actions against Wanda. Ian kind of apologizes, but he's it. Even when she's almost killed, people are more concerned with how Kyle was justified than if Wanda's okay. And while that is bad romantic writing, and bad writing, since it's clearly not what Stepheny Meyers was going for, if you take this relationship and use it to intentionally build unhealthy relationships, you could get very good writing out of it. You can learn as much by seeing what not to do as you can by seeing what to do. So go and read Stepheny Meyers, the host. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, comment, wash dishes, vacuum. At least it's a different list this time. Thanks for watching.